Hey everybody, welcome back to Phoenix Fab. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So today we're going to be lowering the S3. I am extremely excited to do this and I want to show you how to do it in under 15 minutes. So let's get right to it. Later after this, I am going to tell you why the RS is gone and kind of tell you, well, don't worry about it. It'll be back really soon. All right, let's do it. These are the APR springs that I got for the car. I picked them up for about $273 with tax, and I thought it was a really good deal. I'm very excited to throw them on this car. All right, so first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna get this wheel off. Audi gives you this tool right here, and that's gonna take these lug nut covers off. So you just slide it in there, and pops out that simple. So let me take these off, and yeah, I'm just gonna do it like, yeah, F1 cruise. You know where to find me. Hit me up on my Instagram. That was fast. I'm just kidding, guys. All right, so I got the wheel off. Let's start going over the things you want to disconnect. The first thing, if you have electronic mag ride, disconnect the sensor. It's at the bottom of the strut. I'm going to show it to you now. Make sure that's the first thing you do. If you remove the strut and you don't have it disconnected, you're going to break it right off. So do that first. So your mag sensor, controller, wire, whatever you want to call it, is right at the bottom of the strut. Unplug this, then it's out of the way, you don't have to worry about it, and you're not going to break it off. The next thing you're going to want to remove is your sway bar end link. It's this bar right here, and I find it's easiest to disconnect it down here at this nut. For the sway bar bolt, you're going to want that 18mm I told you about, and then you're also going to want a hex head, and you put it in the end of the end link. That makes it so it doesn't spin on you as you're loosening it. With the end link disconnected, we're going to move on to the spindle. We're going to take the 18mm nut off of this side while we're using an M14 triple triangle on that bolt right there. And we're just going to hold from this side and mainly do all the twisting off on this side. All right, so with your end link disconnected and the bolt out of the spindle, you're gonna wanna take a knuckle spreader, which I made my own. I took a hex head and I ground it down to an oval, and I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's pretty simple. I'll maybe take a picture and edit it into this video. But you take one of these tools, and let me show you. You wanna put it right in between this seam, and then you're going to want to spin it so that you get a little opening up of the spindle, and this strut will fall out of the sleeve. That is usually a lot harder than it looked, so be ready for some heartache when you get to that job. Next, we can move on to disconnecting the strut at the top of the fender, and then this will come out and it's ready for the new springs. So let me show you how to get to these bolts. So to get to these, you have to just take this weather strip off and just lift up, and there you go. Now there is one plastic washer right over here, and you got to get that off to remove this to get to the final bolt down in there. So here I have the strut all set up and ready to go. I'm going to first take the spring condenser and bring the spring together. This will give me a little space, it'll release all the tension up here, and I'll be able to take the nut off the top of the strut, which happens to be a 20mm. And from there, I can take the top half off, the spring out, and rebuild this with the new springs. So you want to position these far enough apart from each other where they're going to be putting the most even pressure on this. So I'm pretty much there. They're pretty much across from each other. So let me tighten this up. All right, so you can see now we've got a lot of give here. This means that the spring is pretty much ready to be taken apart, disassembled entirely. So I'm gonna get that 20mm socket on here, loosen up this nut, and yeah, take it apart. All right, be very, very careful. So here's the two springs side by side. They look pretty much the same. The only thing that you're going to want to pay attention to when installing the new one is make sure that the lettering is the right way up, or else you've got your spring on upside down. Another thing you're going to want to be mindful of is that the end of the spring here ends up right there when you're reinstalling this. That's the most important, or else you're going to get popping when you make turns and hit bumps. All right, so let's put this back together. First things first is going to be putting the spring back in and making sure it seats with the bottom notch in the rubber. Then take the spring perch, and you can kind of tell where the old spring ended, and it pops right back together. Now, in this situation, I'm probably going to have to condense this spring. It does not look like I'm going to be able to get it to thread without condensing it. So let me do that really quick. Let's give me a few minutes. I'll speed it up. Okay, let me settle with you. It was very hard to shoot footage and keep the strut and spring lined up. So I took a picture of the original setup and drew on it for us. So let's start from the top. At the top hat, it's two pieces, and you have to make sure that they're lined up. I have arrows pointing to both of the sections that you need to line up, and make sure that they're seated so that the top left picture is on top of the bottom right picture. Now, those two pieces, once they're sitting on top of the spring, take those two notches that you lined up and line it up with the bottom of the strut. At that point, you can tighten everything down, and it's ready to go back in the car. Once you're done reassembling your strut and spring, you just reassemble the driver's side the exact same way you took it all apart, and you're ready to move on to the back. Well, it looks good. I'm very happy. So at this point, make sure you torque everything down to its factory spec. I will put a link to some torque specs in the description of this video, and then throw the wheel back on, and we'll move on to the back. I have the back end off the ground now, wheel off. PB blasted every bolt I needed to, found all the bits that I need to get all the back bolts off the control arm, and we're gonna start by putting this jack stand up against the bottom of the control arm. That way when we start loosening all those bolts, that doesn't shoot the spring down towards us. So let me show you the bolts we're gonna be taking off and get the control arm braced. The first things we're going to want to start to do is bring this jack up to just brace the bottom of the control arm. Then we'll come over here, we'll remove this TP20. We're going to remove both of them actually. We'll come over to the sway bar end link and remove this. This is a 13mm. We're going to remove the shock absorber mount, which is an 18mm on both sides. And then we'll finally come over here to the end of the control arm, which this is an 18mm. So let's get started. All right, so once you have all those bolts out, this is all free and it'll lower, but you want to be very, very careful. I'm actually going to stand off to the left side of the spring behind this basically and slowly lower this down. See how this goes. All right, all the tension's off of it. With all the tension off, this literally just pops right out. All right, let's get the new spring, put it in. When setting up the rear spring, make sure that you have APR legible again, and then transfer this rubber pad to the next one. And we're ready to put it back in. When installing the new spring into the control arm, make sure that you put the end of the spring right here. You can see where the old one was sitting. Make sure it's seated right up against this, or else you might get some popping noises. Well, the back was a lot easier than the front, but I will tell you this, it only took me 40 minutes to do both sides, and that's even videotaping everything. Don't forget to torque everything down. Once again, torque specs are in the description, but I'm really excited. Let's see how good she looks. All right, let's put her down. I absolutely love these springs. APR did a great job. It's stiffer through corners and less body roll, and it's still smooth over bumps that when you're driving normal. So I couldn't be happier with it, and I'm excited to definitely drive it some more and see what it's like. But I would definitely recommend it to any A3 and S3 owners out there. Throw it on your car. It's cheap, quick, and you'll love the new driving style. So next week we're going to be doing brakes on this, just the fronts, rotors and pads, and then the week after that we should get Project RSTi back. So stick around for that, and we're going to start restoring it right away. I know we said we were going to do that a while ago, but we ran into a major problem, so I took it to a new cage shop. It's getting fixed now, and I've got a word of warning about, who you work with. So that'll be coming in the next video. I hope you're having a great day. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and talk to you soon.
Bye.